Today is September 12th, 2020. I've been consistently fasting for, it's been a year now. I will say, fasting has not only changed my life, but it saved my life. For most of my life, I've made a conscious effort to stay away from being in photos, from taking photos. And a lot of that has to do with just me being very embarrassed about how I looked. So trying to find these old photos has been very difficult because there's just not a lot of me to be found in the past. A lot of that has changed since then. And on September 12th, 2019, that was the first day that I decided to do something consistently to better myself, to better my health, and to kind of change my life around. And I know that weight isn't everything, but my health is. I had been teeter-tottering with the idea of fasting for quite some time before I even started, but I just wasn't sure how to go about it. I spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos, I perused Reddit, and I got a lot of useful info out of it. So I decided to take the plunge. And even though I started on September 12th, I had actually started weeks before that. It was just me trying and failing and trying and failing. And whatever happened on September 12th, 2019, it just stuck. Stuck for now a year. Now, I said this on my very first video that I made here. And one of the big reasons that I wanted to lose weight was for a wedding. And when I did start, I had 78 days. At work, there was a whiteboard, and I had just wrote day 1 on it, put my current weight, and then I used that as kind of like a reminder of my progress and where it could go 78 days out, because that's how long it was going to take, or that's how long it was before I had to go to this wedding. So really, the weight loss was based purely on vanity. I was living in Southern California at the time. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm in Chicago now. Again, I'm living here again. And I wanted to go home and impress everybody. That was I always get that way. I have these delusions of grandeur, how everyone's going to go crazy and whatever. And it's just the wrong way to go about it. But that was my catalyst then. I wanted to lose a ton of weight before going to this wedding. And so I had this whiteboard, and the whiteboard included, again, my weight, how much I lost either per day or anytime I successfully lost weight on the scale, how long my fasting regimen was, and how long my feeding window was. I'll give you the notes. A lot of people asked me what my regimen was like before I started doing 90-hour fasts, before doing 65-hour fasts. So if we go back to the very first, it looks like 2 weeks here, when I started fasting, I averaged around 44 and a half hours of fasting. I started my very first fast with a 59-hour fast. I had lost about 10 pounds, I believe. There's a photo of me on September 25th that I'll share with you guys. And it was crazy because I kind of fell into this photo a couple days ago. And when I looked at it, I was like, I don't even remember looking like that. And that was not even a year ago. By that time, I was 2 weeks into my fasting regimen. I had lost about 10 pounds. The way I felt after 2 weeks, I felt like I lost a ton of weight. I felt like I looked completely different. Now, when I look back at those photos, yeah, I did lose weight, but not not how I saw myself. I mean, it was a good thing, at least for me, because even though I look now and I'm like, wow, I've lost so much weight since then, it was still like a good push for me to keep going. And that's exactly what I did. So I have the screenshot here from September 29th to October 29th. And the fasting was kind of all over the place, but it was still 36 plus hours for each one that was here. One fast lasted 141 hours, and then another one was up to 184 hours, which is over a week that I had fasted for. And so I want to take the time and talk about how much weight I lost in September of 2019, and I had lost 12 pounds. I had gone down from 220.4 pounds to 208.4 pounds. And then for the month of October, I had gone all the way down to 186 pounds even. For that month, I had lost 22.4 pounds. I was pretty obsessed. I kept that scale at work, and I went to the office every single day, even on Saturdays and Sundays when we weren't in the office, because I wanted to go in there, weigh on the scale, and mark my numbers down. It was a motivator for me, it really was. At the time when I had first started fasting, it was really rough. I had gone through either carb withdrawal, caffeine withdrawal, a combination of the two, but when I first started, I was pretty lethargic. Those days that I did fast, the only thing that I ever did was just go to work, and then I'd go back to my apartment, and then I would sleep for most of the day. I don't know how long that lasted for. I would say probably 3 weeks, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but somewhere around then. I just did not feel 100%. But the longer I fasted, the more I kept at it, the better I felt. I think doing a lot of the research and realizing that fat was being used for energy and that I wasn't going to die made me feel better, obviously. And a couple weeks in, and I noticed that like I could start going for small walks, and I actually enjoyed the walks, and it was something that I still do to this day. So it's September 2020 now, just an FYI, I pretty much walk 7 days a week, and I walk anywhere between 4 to 6 miles a day. So November comes, and that was the month of the wedding. I believe the wedding was like November 27th, something like that. It was the day after Thanksgiving, and I had filled that entire whiteboard. It was 78 days, but I was not going to be there for day 78 because I was going to be in Chicago. So I took one last shot from day 1 to day 77, and sometimes I look back at that photo because it reminds me of all the work and like all that dedication I put in to fasting and committing to something that I had never really been able to do before. That month in November, I lost, I think, 16 pounds after losing 22 pounds in October. In that month of November, I did 100 and so it wasn't 168. For the longest time, I thought I did 168s, which are once a week, but they were close. I think they were anywhere between 155 hours and 165 hours. Either way, they were very long fasts in the month of November, and I had lost another 16 pounds. And I think it was day 73. It took me 73 days to go from 220 to under 170 pounds. I had lost over 50 pounds in 73 days. That's 10 and a half weeks. So when I flew back to Southern California, I really wasn't sure if I was going to keep continuing what I was doing. I've just been so used to doing something for a short period of time and then roller coasting and yo-yoing, whatever you want to call it, with my weight. But I really don't know what it was. Maybe it was just because it didn't seem difficult for me to do. So I continued fasting. I wanted to lose more weight. When I looked at photos of myself and I saw the progression of losing that weight, I was really good at angling it at a way where like I was like, yeah, that's great. That's going to be great for social media or whatever. But there were shots that I took as well where I looked at myself and I was like, I could still be skinnier than this. I could still lose more weight. I wanted to be able to look at myself in all angles and still feel good about how I looked. Yes, that might sound very vain and like, I don't know, maybe not the correct way to look at it, but I was very proud of my progress, and I really wanted to push and see how far this could go. Again, I don't know what put that in my head, but it's September 12th, 2020 today, and that focus is still there. I still want to keep pushing. I still want to see how far I can get when it comes to losing excess body fat, adding muscle, and just feeling good about myself. So as I look through these screenshots I'm seeing for like the first, 2 weeks in December, I averaged around a 50-hour fast. And then from December 24th to January 21st, I averaged 78 hours of fasting. January to February, 62 hours of fasting. And then you'll see a dip. You'll see a dip around the end of February into March. And that was because I had a trip with my cousin out in San Diego. I actually had also moved back home to Chicago at the time. So there was a lot going on. And those days weren't perfect, but I still kept pushing. I still kept fasting. And I think that was the more important thing out of this all, was even though I wasn't able to completely do it consistently, I kept trying to push. And I think come March was the really tough time. That's when coronavirus happened. That's when the gyms closed. That's when I didn't know what to do with myself. And I let some of that stress kind of creep in, and it really affected my fasting. So I'm looking from March 2nd to March 18th, I averaged 40.7 hours. And then if you look at March 18th to March 28th, I averaged 26.3 hours. I started this YouTube channel in the beginning of April, and that was because of what was happening here. I wanted to give myself accountability. I wanted to be transparent. And that was the birth of Finally Fasting. I know I had more weight to lose, but I did not realize how much skinnier I got over those months. Literally putting these videos together and seeing the progress, I could just see it in my face. It was hard to believe that when I looked at the very first episode of Breakfast, and I look at the episodes now. Anyway, I've lost about 20 or so pounds since then. And it shows. It shows a lot more than I would have even imagined. So one thing I'm going to be very honest about that I haven't shared with anybody for a number of reasons. I don't want people to feel bad for me. I don't want people to judge how I live my life or how I eat or whatever. And I know people will regardless, but I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 17 years ago. 17. It's a long time ago. And it's something that I've struggled with for 17 years. When I first got diagnosed, my blood sugar was over 500, maybe 550. So typically the average blood sugar for someone who's not diabetic, I believe, is somewhere around 70, 80, maybe high 80s or something, or low 90s for the high range. But I was well over 5 times where it should have been. So they put me on metformin, and this was 17 years ago. I was also on medications for high blood pressure, and I was able to, get a lot of that under control through diet and exercise, but it never sustained itself, or I was never able to maintain that. I would gain weight again, and then I would lose it and then gain it, but more times than not, I would gain it. And more times than not, it would be longer stretches of unhealthy eating and shorter stretches of like drastic dieting, working out to try to get things to normalize. In the last 17 years, my type 2 diabetes, my high blood pressure, my issues with eating and not being able to control how much I eat has affected me in a lot of ways. It's one of the many reasons that I've severed many friendships and relationships. And when it came to school or work, even like business relationships, a lot of that has been severed because of my issues with eating. It's something that when I used to eat, it was a way for me to get away. Usually food was the reason that I walked away from a lot of things. The one thing that I have started to preach more than anything else is I look at the two main factors when it comes to my life and where I wanted to go from here and until the day I die is the two things that weigh heavily on me is one, my health, and two, my happiness. I've said this before, but without your health, you don't have anything. I mean, you might, but it'll be fleeting. Unless you're lucky and you have the best genetics in the world. I apparently do not. I don't. And I don't have time anymore to afford risking my health. And I'm well aware that my relationship with food is not the best. And I understand why people give me a hard time about eating 6,000, 7,000 calories and then fasting for 65 or 90 hours. But I do it because it is the only thing that has worked for me. It is the only thing that I am able to sustain. I think about, would I rather do what I'm doing right now, or would I rather be 220 pounds, 235 pounds? I think that was the most I ever weighed in, and have the issues I had then. Here's the thing is like, I don't know what my blood sugar is at right now. I don't know what my blood pressure is at right now because I don't have medical insurance. I can't afford it. I freelance for work. I don't get paid enough. And this is like the only step that I can take on my own to ensure that I'm trying to take care of myself as best as I can. Here's the thing though. I know a lot of people are probably thinking like, well, why are you eating the way you... It's because I have issues with eating. It is hard for me to eat perfect and be the perfect person and sleep the perfect amount of hours and exercise I don't work that way. I don't. I'm sorry I'm not perfect and I don't expect to be. And I can now live with that. That's something I used to not be able to live with because I used to have to do everything perfectly for me to continue what I'm doing, to continue fasting or to continue trying to eat healthier, to continue to try to exercise. And now I can look at life a little differently where I can try to do my best, which is what I'm doing. I mean, I'm 131.8 pounds. I think no matter where I look or how I do things, there's always going to be some kind of like scrutiny when it comes to that. And I need to be okay with that. It doesn't mean that I'm not trying to do better. It doesn't mean that I'm not trying to tweak my relationship with food and eating healthier because it's something that I've certainly been doing. I take a lot more into account with calories in, calories out. I take a lot more into account with eating lower calorie, higher density foods. Like I'm trying to do the things that I need to do, but it's not always going to be perfect. I've dealt with, I don't know what you want to call it, the shame or the guilt of being X amount of pounds, or it could even be as simple as like going on a date and having the other person look at me with like Oh, I didn't expect that's what you were going to look like, or anything like that. Things like that. The disappointment with family members looking at you like, oh, you gained so much weight, or you're looking fat, or whatever. This is something I've dealt with for a long, long time. This is something that I know other people have dealt with as well. So during a lot of those times, a lot of those dark days, a lot of the times where I felt like my health was in jeopardy, there were times that I didn't know how long I was going to be here for. There were times that I would lay in bed and I was afraid that I was going to have a heart attack, or that it was just a matter of time before something happened that I wouldn't be able to control. My dad was diabetic. You know, he had a heart attack and a stroke. And I seriously thought it was just a matter of time before it got to me too. So when people give me shit, or they say what it's like, you don't know me and you don't know what I've been through. The one thing that I've learned is it takes time to do this. I said this before, if I could do it all over again, I would have never rushed it. I would have never done it for just the whole vanity thing or whatever. Like, if you expect to do this for life, you do have to, like, enjoy the journey of doing it. I know that it can be hard, and it is. And it's not for everybody, but there are other ways to do it. You don't have to fast for 65 hours or 90 hours or 184 hours, right? I think there are different ways to go about it. And if I can help you in any way, please let me know. Like, I know what it's like, and I've been there so many times, and I really didn't know if I was ever gonna figure it out. I've learned a lot in this year. A lot more than I thought that I would have. I never thought I would stay consistent. I never thought that I would keep pushing, that I would keep going. I never thought that I'd start a YouTube channel. I didn't know it would resonate with people this way. And for that, I'm thankful. It's kind of given me a new purpose in what I'm doing and how I want to do things and how I want to live my life. And there's just so much more when it comes to this. Like, yeah, I've lost a good amount of weight and I think I'm almost at my goal weight, but there's the whole part of like the evolution of how I'm eating and how I'm trying to like tweak things, and the exercise portion, and hopefully going back to the gym when all of this is over and lifting weights again and trying to maintain the weight and trying to help other people out and trying to like get the mindset and the mentality of figuring it all out. Because it's not, some people, maybe they can say that it's easy, just do this, this, and that, but it's not always that easy. It isn't. Not for everybody. I've been getting a lot of comments and a lot of DMs, and I'm not able to get to everybody, but try to reach out and I'll try to help if I can. I do want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch this. I want to thank the people who have supported me in extra ways on my Patreon, supporting to help offset costs. You know, what I do does take a bit of time. And I do appreciate everybody, but I do want to give a special thanks to my patrons as well. I don't want to end this off on a sad note. I don't. I'm very proud of who I am today, but I'm also very proud of who I was a year ago. And I'm very proud of who I was before that. I'm looking forward to seeing what another year, 2 years, 5 years down the road comes from this. All right, guys. That'll be it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate everybody. If you do or are interested in supporting at all, you can check out my Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/finallyfasting. Otherwise, that is it for tonight. Guys, thank you so much again for watching. Please feel free to subscribe, leave a comment or a question, and I will get back to you as soon as I can, hopefully. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Have a good guys. Have a good one. Have a good one, guys. I'll see you later. Bye.